Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Landy Lodge, where today we're talking about the highly critically acclaimed Final Fantasy XIV and its incoming expansion, Dawntrail. But before we get into that and introduce today's great guest, first, let's give a lot of love and a shout out to the Sages of the Lodge. The beautiful names you see up on your screen are either YouTube channel members, longtime Twitch subscribers, or they donate to the Lodge directly. But like I always say to you guys, all I ask is that you're here to hang out. I know I say it every time, and I'm going to say it every time, because that's just how it is. I see we got a few early birds in here. Zebulon is here, Sephiroth Crescent, Will's Word, and Hyrule Falcone. Good to see you guys. And without further ado, allow me to introduce today's guest, none other than the great Pau-Pu Komi. Komi, how's it going? And thank you for stepping into the lodge today. Give me 1 second. For some reason, your mic's not coming through, but I know just what to do. Okay, go for it now.
Hello.
There you are. You're all set. So again, Thank you again for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I feel like this, for people should know, this has been a bit of a shift. We originally were going to do an episode kind of talking all about A Realm Reborn, our personal feelings about it. I think we both agree that it's quite underrated. People tend to talk about it as a bit of a chore, where perhaps the beginning of the game, you could argue that, but I do think at a certain point, it does take off and does a really good job of entertaining the player, immersing the player. But anyway, we're talking mostly Dawntrail today. But before we get into that, I do want to pick your brain about your personal Final Fantasy XIV journey, how you ended up playing the game, what brought you into it, and what made you stay for, all the way to, what is this, Expansion 7? Dawntrail?
Yeah. 7.0.
7.0. So let us know a little bit what your FF14 journey looks like.
Okay. I started 14 probably, oh gosh, right before Heaven's Ward came out. So probably patch 2.4, 2.5-ish. Honestly, I don't remember at what point I started. My roommate in college at the time was playing the game on their PlayStation 3, PS3 era. And I was like, oh, this looks like fun. And I watched for a little bit and I went, I want to try it. And then I got hooked onto it. Caught up, I think, right as Heaven's Ward was releasing. So got to go through that expansion fresh. And have been addicted ever since. It was the focus of my content when I started streaming. Yeah, and now here we are. I went from, 2.4 to 7.0.
So I'm
I'm very
pretty
excited.
I'm pretty envious that you've been on the ride this long. It humbles me because I only just started playing it about 3 years ago, and only just probably finished the end of Endwalker maybe a year ago, maybe actually a little bit less. So I'm quite jealous that you've been along for the ride this long. How have you seen sort of the online community of FF14 kind of morph and change over that period of time?
That's kind of a tough one because I feel like the community, while every community I think has some of its negativity, especially in the social media space, I feel like the 14 community overall is pretty welcoming and open to new people. I meet new people all the time through this game that become quick friends, or someone's like, hey, do you want help running this?
Mhm.
I try to do, the same thing myself. I take my mentor crown very seriously. Um, but I feel like the community is a really nice, open and welcoming space. And I don't have a lot of MMO experience. 14 is kind of the only MMO I've really played around with.
I was going to ask you that. So this is your first MMO altogether.
I mean, I did some like RuneScape
I
back
was
in my
gonna
younger
say.
days, but I don't
I
know if
was gonna
that really
say.
counts.
It counts. It counts.
Yeah, no, I don't really have a lot of MMO experience. This is kind of my first one that I've played for such a long time and really stuck with.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like I tried World of Warcraft when I was younger. I definitely played some RuneScape in my younger days, but an MMO never really stuck with me. And like
Yeah.
I didn't even play like lifelong Final Fantasy fan. I didn't even play FF11 just because MMOs weren't really my thing. So I figured I'd skip it. Um, I don't know if I'd ever play another MMO again because I feel like it would always just feel it just wouldn't feel as good as this one just because like I love Final Fantasy, and to see it
Yeah.
take this form really shows me like this series can do anything that its lead creator puts its mind to. But with that said, before I get too far off on a tangent there, um, so what kind of FF14 player are you? I asked that because there's many different kinds of players. There are the raider heads, the raid heads like
Uh,
BioRoxys, or you have some people who they're into it for the Animal Crossing of it all and they decorate their island or their apartment or their house. Some people are into it for the social aspect. There's a nightclub scene. So what
yeah.
kind of FF14 player are you?
All of the above.
All of the okay.
I so who man. I do a little bit of everything in this game. I like to see everything that the game has to offer, and I think one of the nicer things, having played it for so long and going from expansion to expansion, is I have the time to do all of those things. I didn't start Savage raiding until uh Eden. Yeah, the Eden tier in the last expansion. But I found that, oh, endgame rating is kind of fun. I'm gonna try to do more of that. I love Island Sanctuary. I cannot
Mhm.
tell you that when it first released, I spent an entire day and a half doing nothing but just gathering things for 10 experience a pop on my island, just because I enjoyed it. Um, the with Stormblood, when Eureka released, I'm not a big Eureka enjoyer, but it was like the only content out at the time. So I do remember like because I was still playing 14 on console at that point. I hadn't switched to PC. So I was playing it on my PlayStation 4 and I had myself sitting in Eureka, like casting it to my PS Vita, which is another old, while I would
Wow.
play something else on my PS3 because I was waiting for certain fates to spawn. So like I've tried a little bit of everything in this game. I have done the clubbing scene once or twice. I do have a lot of respect for the RP community of 14.
Well, we
Um,
had somebody in the chat ask if you've done any RPing in FF14.
I haven't done any myself in 14 specifically, but I do have a lot of respect for the nightclub scene
They go
and the
hard.
DJ scene.
They
They
go
do,
hard.
and they make it fun.
I have to say, I've jumped into a couple. I also like the taverns. I will say I do have a soft spot for the taverns, and there are times where like it's a little bit late at night before I go to bed, and sometimes I like to do a little bit of work, and I'll legit pull up my Warrior of Light into some tavern somebody made in FF14, and they're just asking me about my day or what I'm working on, and it's just like I feel like there's like an infinite amount of ways to engage with that world and this game that there's a little
Yeah,
bit of something for everybody. Like, so for instance, I've pretty much spent the first 500 hours. I put about 1,000 in at this point. Nothing but main story quest. Like,
yeah.
obsessed to the point that, like,
Hmm.
if I was reading a box of dialogue and I felt like I skimmed even like a bit of it, I'd go back to the beginning, read
Start
it
it
again.
over.
Yeah, just because I wanted to make sure I was really getting it. Because once you get to that, to me, it was when you join the Scions in A Realm Reborn. That's
Hmm.
when I
Okay,
really started to get like sucked
that
into
was
the
the hook.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
that got me. Having your own little found family for your Warrior of Light feels like you finally have a place. You're kind of this misfit during the beginning of the game where like you're establishing yourself. And then when you just
Hmm.
have your not cliche, but your
You're
I
like
get
clique of
you
friends.
right, the what you
Yeah,
expect from Final Fantasy, right? Where are my goofy misfits that I get to hang out with?
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's when it hooked
So
me.
oddly enough, 14 was kind of my big gateway into other Final Fantasy games. Um, Before that, I was I played Final Fantasy 7. Um, but I really got into 14 and I was like, okay, I'll give the other games in the series a try, and now I've played almost all of them. So, it's funny on the flip side, like doing all this content in 14 and then going back to an old game and saying, "Hey, I recognize that boss from 14" instead of the other way around. But yeah.
Okay, now I have to ask you. We're gonna deviate for a second there. So you've played a
Okay.
whole bunch. Can you give me roughly a top 3 Final Fantasies for you? Roughly
Uh
speaking.
Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core is my number one of all time. Um, I'm a big Zack Fair fan.
Aren't
Um,
we all?
I kind of group seven all together as one thing.
One compilation.
So we'll kind of put that as the number one. Final Fantasy VI is my number two, and then number three is really hard. Probably Final Fantasy IV.
Okay. That's actually one I haven't played. And
Yeah, I have not played 8. I have not finished 12, and I haven't finished 16, but I've gotten through most of 16.
okay.
So,
So you're well on your way.
yeah.
Have you played 11? Speaking of 14 MMOs,
No.
no. Okay. Which I hear they do have like a one player mode server up, so that
I think
everyone
so,
can
yeah.
still play it. I do want to get to that one day, but
One day.
I don't know. With all the FF14 we have to play, I don't know if there'll be any time.
Exactly, especially with Dawntrail coming out next week.
Next week, yeah, literally a week from
Early
tomorrow.
access.
So let's maybe talk a little bit about Dawntrail there. What are your well actually first I wanted to ask you one thing. Main story quest in 14. Is that something that ever grabbed you? I'll ask you what are the 2 or 3 things that grab you the most about 14, and then we'll move on to Dawntrail.
Story's definitely one of them. I love the story of this game. I don't know if I would have actually stuck around with it as an MMO if it weren't for its story.
I would agree.
Yeah, because I mean, I like the social aspect. I like being able to play the game with friends, but the story part, especially being able to create your own character, your own Warrior of Light, makes it feel like you're more a part of it than, say, to use as an example, since I've been playing the game recently, like Dragon Quest, where you could like name your main character however you want, but like that character's personality and stuff are kind of set. I feel like with 14 in the story, especially when it gives you dialogue options, you can throw in a little spice of personality to your character. And I mean, I see artists and people all the time at the RP community, they just have these personalities and their lore for their Warriors of Light. And it just feels so involved. So story's a big one.
And I just want to say before you continue, I feel like they do such a good job of making the Warrior of Light, your Warrior of Light, feel like a genuine, authentic character in the main story quest, and not just sort of like this copy and paste cookie cutter avatar that's just gonna go with the flow, beat the bad guy, move on to the next thing. Like all the Scions have like unique relationships with you, some of them more complicated than others. Like they do a very good job of not just making the Warrior of Light feel like an insert or a self-insert, you know?
Yeah, and I know it's like a simple programming thing, but like me, who plays a Lalafell character, you know, I'm as short as they can be. The perspectives in the game, I don't know if you've like ever seen differences between like races, but camera angles change. Alphino looks down at me instead of up at literally anyone else. So like it's really cool, and it feels more like I'm a part of it in a way that is unique. And like you said, like the relationships that you build. I mean, you can even treat characters in different ways through dialogue option if you decide you don't want to like characters.
Yeah, I used
right?
to be a little mean to Alphino, and I feel really bad about it. Like all these years later, like he was just a kid, he was just learning. That was so bad. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So yeah, story is a big one. I honestly really just enjoy the gameplay of it too. And I know jobs are constantly evolving and changing, but as someone who hasn't played MMOs, I feel like the battle system of it really isn't that hard to grasp. Some jobs are more complicated than others, but like there's a nice ease of it, and I feel like Yoshi P and everyone has like kind of made it easier for players to kind of just pick up a job and play it if they want to for fun, right?
I've definitely felt that.
Yeah, and some people get upset because they think we're oversimplifying jobs or, you know, other similar critiques, but I think it just makes it more accessible.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said of, you know, wanting advanced gameplay or something a little bit more difficult. But the game does account for that with, you know, savage raids and things of that sort where the gameplay gets a little bit more advanced as opposed to, you know, more casually going through raids.
Right.
Cool. You know, the main story quest carried it for me for a while. I feel like I only really started to play the game after I finished Endwalker, because I was so hooked on main story quest that
you just go through story, and that's all. You got the blinders on. You're just doing story.
Pretty much.
Because you want to know what happens next.
That's really what happened. I felt like I was like addicted to turning the page, and I was like, I'll do everything else after. And now I'm starting to really fall in love with raids. I feel like I've caught the raid bug.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel it. I've done a couple savage ones. I've done the extreme ones from, you know, earlier expansions, but I'm starting to feel that pull of like, okay, I want to do something a little more complex than what's just in my duty finder. You know what I mean?
That's how it starts. You start with extremes. You're like, okay, I got extremes down. Let me try savage. And next thing you know, you're clearing ultimates.
Yeah, and then there's the loot.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That like dopamine that passes through when you roll high on something. You're like, yes, that loot's mine now.
Yes.
The serotonin boost.
And when you hear that little sound effect that you got it too.
Yeah.
They know just how to hack your reward systems.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Counter question.
Shoot.
Favorite expansion so far?
Story-wise, Shadowbringers.
Okay.
This is gonna maybe get me some flack. Content-wise, Stormblood. I feel like Stormblood has some really cool stuff. And maybe I'm just a sucker for like the FF12 raids, right? Like maybe I'm just a sucker for that because it's canon. At least it's sometimes I doubt myself, right? But like it's pretty confirmed that FF12 and FF14 share a universe canonically. So it's
kind of. I mean, Ivalice is there, so
Ivalice. I'm bad at pronunciations, but
that's okay.
But yeah, like I don't know. I mean, Shadowbring. If I had to pick just one, Shadowbringers a million times over. The near raids in Shadowbringers are a blast. But I don't know. I felt like Stormblood just had so much, right? And and maybe that's just because Endwalker was a little bit more vacant than previous expansions. But I don't know. I'll fire that same question back at you.
Heaven's Word is probably my favorite expansion, story-wise. I was very, very attached to the Dragon Song War story. Harshaphant is my favorite NPC. I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, so Heaven's Word was kind of really high up there for me. I think Shadowbringers is probably my second favorite. Just because it was an interesting change in the shift of dynamic from Warrior of Light to Warrior of Darkness, but not in a this is my villain arc era, right?
No.
I really like Shadowbringers a lot. So yeah, those are probably my top two.
I will say I do have a particular affinity for the Pandemonium raids in Endwalker.
They were fun. I really enjoyed Pandemonium.
The songs for all the battles were just mind-blowing.
Bangers.
Oh my god. One after the other.
Yeah. I enjoyed Pandemonium. I really enjoyed Eden. Mostly in the sense of because the story is how the Warrior of Light pictured these fights, going into them and seeing them, I'm just like, yeah, if that's how my Lalafell pictured Ramuh, sure. If that's how my Lalafell pictured Titan, I mean, that's a little telling, I guess, but it was just funny. It being like reimaginings of primal battles, and yeah. And then you hit 12 and it's suddenly Final Fantasy VIII music.
And I'm such a sucker for any callback to any Final Fantasy. Like I hate to
it's
say
so
it.
Cool. I love the Easter eggs.
Me too. And I like that. And it's so like jarring sometimes, right? Because like with the FF12 raids, like Fran is there and like she knows where she is. She knows what's going on. She's on top of everything. But then when there's like an FF15 crossover, Noctis is like, boy, how did I ever end up here?
It's Clive too. Clive's like,
is that a crystal?
Wait, you guys like your crystals?
Yeah, it's just funny how for some it's so fish out of water, but for others it's like, like Fran, right on top of everything.
Noctis was like, can I just go take a nap?
Also, my new obsession is just driving the Regalia around the open world when I'm bored. And just listening to that same harmonica song over and over. And just being happy.
As a Lalafell, driving is hilarious because you just stand on the seat and the car moves by pure spite. That's
wait, really? So like in the Regalia,
yeah.
the Lalafell has to stand?
In the Regalia, I'm just standing on the like seat. No one's pushing the gas pedal.
So you're Flintstoning it.
It's spite.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So with that established, let's actually talk about Dawntrail. I've mentioned on a couple previous episodes, so my audience is probably sick of me hearing it. But the one thing that you want from this expansion, if you could ask for just one thing, what would it be?
Honestly, the one thing I ask for is the one thing I think we're going to get, which is a new beginning. I am really excited for a new saga kind of journey, right? Because from A Realm Reborn to Endwalker, it has all been interconnected. Kind of like how the Darkseeker saga of Kingdom Hearts was all interconnected, right? And now with like, I mean, can talk Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to be a new saga that will probably have connections to the old one. So I'm kind of hoping that there are still some Dawntrail connections to the whole saga we went through. But I feel like after the entire journey we've been through, we deserve a break. And I'm looking forward to a fun vacation that surely won't go wrong at all at any point. So yeah, I think the one thing that I just am really looking forward to is the brand new beginning. And hopefully kind of bringing back that, Scion unit, because we kind of lost it at the end. And that was a little bittersweet. Not in the like, we're disbanding sort of thing. I don't know. I like all my Scion buddies, and I'm looking forward to vacation.
Having a vacation with. So I agree with you 100%, and I would say that I feel exactly the same way. My whole thing is I want that to be true down to the last punctuation mark, so that, look, eventually, like you said, something's gonna go wrong. Some antagonist, demon, false god, fallen angel, something's gonna show up. Tyrant, right? Someone's gonna show up.
Yeah.
Something's gonna show up and go wrong. But I just want the stakes localized. Don't make it an apocalypse.
Let's not make it another Earth saving thing.
Right. Localize the stakes. Keep it completely localized to Taral. Keep everything on Taral. And I'll be a happy camper. If that one factor is in place, I'm confident they'll nail the rest. That's really how I feel. Like that vacation with the Scions, I not only think we're going to get that, I think it's going to go even further, right? Because it's basically a tournament arc. We learned that at the end of Endwalker, that we're going to be helping, what's her name? Woke Lamont? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Woke Lamont?
I think so.
We're going to be...
I'm going to be completely honest. I still got a little bit of MSQ to do.
That's okay.
I know about it, but that's the female Hrothgar, right? Yeah.
Correct.
So
there's a tournament arc, and we can be on a team of 4. So I'm just wondering, how are the Scions going to split up? What are the
Who do you want on your team?
Yeah. Do you get to pick who's on your team? I doubt it.
I sure hope so.
All right. If you could pick, because obviously we have to be with Woke Lamont. If you could pick two Scions, who you got? So you got your Warrior Light, Woke Lamont, and then you get to pick 2 for your team. Who would you ideally pick?
Estinian.
I'm gonna be really mad if you have the same answer as me. Because I like hearing myself talk, so.
Estinian is definitely one of them. Who would the second one be? Man, because if I'm trying to pick strategically, I'm like, okay, Urianger's smart. Thancred's got the strength, probably. Alize's nimble. I'm gonna have to go with my girl Alize, just because the dynamic between her and Estinian is also hilarious, and I feel like it would just be a funny time.
Yeah, it's a spunk overload between those two. I like
have to have the kitty leash on one so that he doesn't spend all your gil, and then you have to have the kitty leash on the other one because she'll just go on a rampage. It's just,
That, and I would like to see them interact more. I actually really like Estinian and Alphino's dynamic, that Alphino really inspired him to kind of maybe start thinking about things differently. But I would go Estinian, Y'shtola, and I don't think we lose.
Yeah.
We got
Y'shtola's she's not very happy with me after some of the dialogue choices I've made in the past, so I'm kind of scared of her right now. I love her, but she scares me.
I love how on the nose they are about all the cat motifs with her.
Yeah.
She clearly has a 9 lives things going on. How many times has she escaped
Seriously.
death now?
If she does it again in this expansion, I'm putting her... No.
We don't have... She's got 9
She's fired.
And I like that it's her curiosity that gets her into trouble all the time.
Yep.
That's how she lost, you know what? We'll what we wanted to say, but
Yeah.
I kind of I in a goofy way, right? Because to me, Final Fantasy always has to have a little bit of goofiness, and I think a character
Mhm.
like Y'shtola who takes herself so seriously, I like it when that goofiness kind of bleeds through no matter what. Um, but yeah, I would go. But I've got a feeling it's gonna be, it's gonna be. My guess is it's gonna be Alice and um Kryl, because she's the Pictomancer.
That's true. Yeah. Kryl is joining us on this journey, which I'm excited for. I'm happy to see more Kryl. I feel like she doesn't get a lot of screen time or important time. Um,
We need
so I
combat
am excited for
Lalafels
that.
back after we lost
Yeah.
oh no. Why have I forgotten his
No, don't
name?
don't say it. Don't say it. Don't hurt me like this.
Why can't I remember
You can
him?
do it.
Papa
You can do
Limo.
it.
Ever since we
There
lost
you
Papa
go.
Limo. Man. Papa Limo. But no, it's good that we have a column, because I love Tataru, don't get me wrong. I love and adore Tataru.
I love her so much.
She's fantastic. The Scions would not be the same without her. But I'm glad we
No.
have another Lalafell back in the ring.
Mhm.
Although since you play a Lalafell, you probably haven't felt that. See, I play Aura, so I feel there's a heightened
Even
balance.
still playing as a Lalafell, it's like, where are the other Lalafells? Like, where are my buddies? I'm surrounded by tall people.
I feel like I see a lot of Lalafells. I mean, I
Yeah.
see more cat girls than anything, but that's every server. That's every
Yeah.
server. But
I
also,
think we're gonna see a lot of cat ladies soon, though.
I would think
Those
so.
those female Hrothgars are looking pretty good.
They're big. They're big. That's what you're into. There's some big ladies right there.
Yeah.
But it's
I
exciting.
mean,
Do
I
you have
also
any interest in the new classes, either Viper or Pictomancer? Are you gonna give any of those a shot?
I will probably play both of them because usually one of the first things I do with expansions is I do the MSQ and then I level every job to max. So I
Okay.
will touch them eventually. Um, uh, but if I had to pick between the two of them, I think Pictomancer is probably a little more interesting to me. Melee DPS have typically been my least favorite jobs to play on average. So Viper looks really cool, but as a playstyle, it probably won't be my cup of tea.
See, I'm so regular. One of the classes I play is already physical DPS, Samurai, and I'm gonna go
Okay.
right into Viper. I'm gonna go right into it. I don't know, dual wielding swords. Maybe it's because I saw Darth Maul at a young age or something, but something about that weapon class. I'm like, I'm in. I'm all in. So I'll give Viper a shot. I don't know if I'll like it more than Samurai. I do enjoy Samurai quite a lot. Gunblade is probably my favorite class to play. What about you? What's your favorite class, and what class did you start with?
So I've actually made it part of my like Warrior of Light lore. I actually started the game um as an Arcanist because I was told, hey, when you hit level 30, you can go into healer or a DPS job, and I thought that was cool. But I actually don't really like the class all that much. I went through most of A Realm Reborn and Heaven's Ward as a Marauder / Warrior.
Okay.
So I tanked for a good chunk of time, and then I went into Stormblood and have been playing as a White Mage ever since. And we've integrated that into the character lore, and I'm a healer main now. It's just the comfiest job for me.
Okay, can you tell me about this healer strike? I'm not sure I get it.
Oh God, no!
I'm not sure I get it.
Okay, so I'm not sure I get it either, and I'm not participating in it because I think it's silly. So it has to do with, I guess, the fact that healing has become oversimplified in recent years and recent expansions, and people are kind of upset that healers just aren't given the same attention as DPS are, or they're upset that they're making tank classes more self-sustainable. And it feels like healer roles aren't entirely to the point where they're necessary, I guess, which is silly to me because no matter what you do, you're gonna need a healer. And if you're going into ending content, you're gonna need healers, plural. And it's I don't know. So they're trying to have this strike where people aren't going to be playing healer when Dawntrail starts, to make some big statement to Square Enix on why they need to pay more attention to the class. There's like a whole forum manifesto post written about it. I don't know. We read it. I read it on stream the other day and tried to kind of like go over it, but I don't know. It just feels kind of silly to me. I understand people being upset that their jobs feel boring to play. And that's a valid feeling to have. But going on a strike in the game isn't gonna have the effect I think that they want it to.
I mean, if those
If
queue
anything,
times, if they're telling me the queue times are going to be shorter because they're on strike,
basically
I'm
what
cool.
I'm hearing is when I queue for a dungeon as a healer, I'm gonna get an instant
You're
pop.
going to get an instant. Honestly, you have everything to gain from this strike.
And I don't know. I honestly, it makes me feel bad for the other players who will be waiting longer for healer queues. And what I'm worried about is we're going to see a resurgence of what happened. Was it when Shadowbringers released? Or was it when Stormblood released? There were healers in Party Finder offering their services as a healer for a guild payment. Because the queues, I think it was basically a black market for getting healer queues. I'm pretty sure it was Stormblood.
Every time
when it happened,
think I know this game, I swear to God.
I think it was Stormblood because they released 2 DPS classes because it was Samurai and Red Mage, and healer queue times were down anyway because people were playing all the new DPS jobs. So yeah, I think it was, I want to say it was more Stormblood. I just remember that people were selling their healing services for Gil. It was like a weird situation. I was just like, cute. Dungeon pop. Yay. Like we're all happy. It's this game is crazy sometimes.
I would love to do a where are they now? So the people who are selling their healing services back then, like, are they just in the
what are you doing
houses?
Now?
Are they just in the big houses? Do they own the nightclubs? Like, oh God. That's crazy though. I mean,
yeah, so
I get wanting to send a message. Yeah. Right? I understand the desire of, hey, this class is getting boring to play. We're not as vital or as important as we maybe used to be. I definitely understand wanting to voice that.
And I think another thing about it, and again, I've avoided a lot of media tour stuff. I haven't really looked a whole lot at job changes. I think there have been some changes to jobs, especially like Astro, where the things that made them feel unique have now been taken away or have been dumbed down. I don't know the validity of that. Again, I haven't looked at the actual job changes, but I think that's another thing people are upset about, is that the healers don't feel as unique anymore, I think is another problem. And like, again, valid if you feel that way. I'm living my best life as a glare mage, just going in and hitting glare, glare, glare. Oh, 30 seconds, Dia. Put my dot on, OGCD heal. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I like how simple the job is. It's good for me.
Well, maybe that is what becomes the appeal over time. Maybe healing just becomes a simpler class, and who knows, maybe DPS or tank, other things get more complex over time or add over time. Like you, I haven't gone too in to the job changes. I'm kind of just going to roll with whatever happens on June 28th. If whatever's different.
I'm going to look at my white mage changes and go from there and do the story to level up and see what skills I get, and I don't know. If people want to go on strike, go for it. But given CBU3's history, if you don't have a large JP player base backing this, they're not going to do anything.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I don't think it'll last that long, if at all. Again, like shortening queue times during an expansion's launch isn't going to upset anybody. Queue to get into the world, right? Like Duty Finder and stuff will get affected in their own way, but
Well, so the strike, they're still going to play the game. They're just not going to play healer.
well, that just ruined my silver
Yeah.
lining is now gone.
No,
so,
yeah, no.
okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. No. So the queue times to get into the game will get pretty bad. But if you're looking to queue for a dungeon, all the people who are healer mains are going to be queuing as tanks and DPS now. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
we'll see how that feels. We'll see how that feels, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to talk about it for too long, but do we know like how many people are, because there are a lot of people who play FF14, and this is a point I bring up often, is like most people who play these games have no idea what's going on in these online spaces. They've zero clue.
I only found out about it because of like social media. Like people were in my Twitch chat and they were like, "Did you hear about the healer strike?" And I went, "The what now?" And they were explaining it and they sent me the forum post. So we read it, on stream. We went over like the whole thing and like the changes they were demanding. And I like read some of the comments of people who were supporting it. And like for a forum post, it had like over 100 pages of replies of people who were like, "Yeah, I'm going to take part in it." So is there a significant chunk of people doing this? It sounds like it. Compared to the 20, 30 million players playing, I don't know how
worldwide.
significant
the
number is worldwide. So again, I don't really know. They're valid in being upset. I don't know if this is quite the way to go about it.
Which is fair enough. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we come back a month from now. We're like, that strike really screwed us up. Or we come back and we're like, we didn't feel a thing. We'll see. Only time will tell.
I mean, I feel like, especially with the introduction of solo dungeons and trusts and all that kind of stuff, people who don't want to wait for queues are just gonna queue with trusts. I mean, That's what I've started doing. My first dungeon run ever for like anything that they add in is always with the Scions because it makes it, again, more like immersive. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah.
When you got your Scion buddies with you.
Definitely. Exactly.
I like it. I do like that they're making the game more one-player compatible for people who are looking for a more traditional Final Fantasy experience. But let me ask you, keeping it at main story quest based. So we talked about keeping the threat localized, no more world-ending apocalypses. If there's one character that you think could use, because you said new beginning, right? If you think there's one character who could use a fresh new story arc, because I feel every Scion has had their little hero's journey, has had their full character arc, who do you think deserves to kind of start their second lap first? Who, in your opinion, for whatever reasons you find?
I really do want to say I feel like it should go to Grahatia.
No one will be upset with that.
Well, so I have... It's hard to explain. Well, I guess it's not super hard to explain. Grahatia goes from being part of side content that wasn't made requirement until later than it should have been in Shadowbringers. And then you've the whole Shadowbringers arc, which was kind of a big coming back moment for him as a character. And all he wants to do is go on an adventure with his buddy. He just wants to go on an adventure with the Warrior of Light. And I feel like Endwalker wasn't quite the adventure he had in mind. And I really think that for Grahatia specifically, being able to have one of those fun, lighthearted adventures is the sort of character direction he needs to move on from the trauma that was Shadowbringers. But I also feel like Alize hasn't really had anything in quite a while. So she's another one that I think could really do with some, not necessarily character growth. I think she's had plenty of character growth, but like a new arc to go on.
She would have been my pick, is Alice. I like the Grahatia pick. And honestly, I would absolutely love if this kind of became that. I mean, look, he's eating a taco in the trailer. He seems to be
so cute.
He's cutting loose a little bit. He's cutting
he just
loose.
wants to be a foodie.
He wants the real tourist experience, you know?
Yeah.
He wants the full experience. But I'm all on board with what you laid out for Grahatia. I think that would be incredible. But I'm with you where I'm like, you know, Alphino had quite
Alphino's
a
had
arc,
it.
You know what I mean? Like, and I feel it because when I was introduced to Alphino, I hated him. I'm like, who's this snobby little kid? Thinks he knows everything. But then he gets called on it and he gets confronted with that. And you watch him grow and like I almost feel like Estinian sometimes. That's why I really like Estinian. So
yeah, he grows so much from A Realm Reborn, where he gets so cocky thinking that he's in charge of the Crystal Braves, to everything falls apart and he really has to grow from it. You go through all of Heaven's Word with pretty much just him, because everyone else is missing. It's, you, Alphino and Tataru. And he grows so much. And Estinian's kind of that nice role model that he gets attached to, as much as Estinian doesn't want it. And then even in like maybe less so in Stormblood, because Stormblood was more for Lys than anything else. But like Shadowbringers, he's got, his growing moments with the whole Yulmore story. He's just grown, and he's come so far as a character throughout the entire story so far that, like, I love Alphino so much, but I'm done. Like, you've got it, dude. You're growing, you're maturing. I believe in you. You're gonna do great things. Let's look at someone else.
Well, I'm all for, look, they're twins, right? They're twins. They've always been from the beginning. I think I want to feel what you just laid out for Alphino. I want to feel that about Alice when this arc is done. Like,
absolutely, I agree.
And that's not to say it doesn't mean you take anything away from Alphino. He can have a second arc too. But everything you're saying right there is exactly what I also want to feel from Alice, because I also feel like Alice is more stubborn than he is. So it could feel more rewarding to watch her go through a transformation like that too. So yeah,
I want Alice to have her moments outside of side content that's not required to do, aka the Bahamut story, like, which wasn't even voiced. So, like, please give her moment. Yeah.
Well, then let's hope she's on our team for the tournament arc. I'll say that.
I sure hope so.
What I really want to see too, I'd love to see. So you split the Scions up into like a bunch of different teams. I want them to mess with each other so much, like literally like plot against each other. They know each other's weaknesses and stuff. Like, exactly. It could create this fun little sandbox where the Scions can like playfully turn on each other.
Exactly.
And you can watch how that would play out. Oh God, that's the kind of stuff I'm itching for from this arc. I'm not looking for you to like reduce me to tears in the way Shadowbringers and Endwalker did. I'm not fishing for that this time.
I don't need the emotions this time. I want to have fun.
Yeah, you broke me already. Don't do it again, not so soon. At least take me on vacation first, right?
Yes.
Take me out to dinner
Let me have a little break.
Exactly. And then you can break. Give me a break, then you can break me again. That's the deal here. So I just hope it possesses that, like, on all fronts. I see Sephiroth Crescent says, I think Kryl deserves a chance to show what she's got. I think she will. I
agree.
I think that
we're going to see a lot from her.
The fact that she's a brand new class too, and I feel like it's got to be implied that she's known about this practice for a long time, but just didn't bring it to Eorzea. Like, I'm interested in that. Like, maybe she kept it because she didn't want this particular practice or magic to leave Taral yet, or something. Like, I'm curious why she might have played that magic so close to the chest. I don't think it's going to be she showed up and figured it out, right? Like,
isn't that call to Final Fantasy V though? Or no? Five's one I'm not familiar with either, actually, now that I think she's in 5. But I don't think Pictomancer was a thing until 6, maybe.
Well,
I don't remember.
Let me see if I can hunt that down. Let me see if I can hunt that down.
Because Kryl mentions her grandfather, who's also a character from 5. So like the name's been mentioned. So I know that her whole thing is a big reference to Final Fantasy V. But yeah, it's weird because we've never really seen Kryl in active combat before.
Well, that's what I'm excited for too, right? Like again, seeing a Lalafell back in the ring. I don't know, something about that excites me. I'm looking her character up now, and it says that in Final Fantasy V she had access to all the jobs. So technically, if Pictomancer existed in that game,
let's see.
We'll see if we can hunt that down. All classes in FF5. Final Fantasy
6
V
was the first one.
No.
It was Realms class in Final Fantasy VI. That was its first appearance.
All right, so yeah, no, then it's a completely new thing for her anyway, for Kryl.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be curious to see if you're right, if it's something that she's always had, or if it's something that she's just gonna pick up out of the blue. Because Alphinaud was the poster child for Sage, right? Mm-hmm. And Alphinaud's always been kind of the mix of a healer. He was a summoner type. But then you get to Charlian and he's like, I put on my new clothes and now I'm a sage. And you're like, where did that come from? Because it kind of just came out of nowhere. Yeah. But I don't know.
No, it's a good point. I mean, it's like you're basically showing it's something they haven't done before. So it's not beyond them to be like, oh, she found the paintbrush over in the corner. Now she's a Pictomancer. I don't mind. I think it's gonna make battles look cool. Like I usually keep the like ally effects pretty limited on my interface, but for Pictomancer, I might turn up the dial a little bit. I don't know.
God, yeah, I might have to turn it back on just for a little bit.
Just to see what the battles will look like with them involved.
Yeah, so I think Kryl would also do well with some character growth. I'm also very excited for Erenville to get some more depth to his character. I liked him a lot when he was first introduced, and I was like, well, that was a cute NPC. I didn't expect him to come back though.
I always had a feeling about him. I don't know why, because I think I love his design, right?
I love it.
Right? There's just something about that. I'm like, nah, they would not waste this on just some guy who's gonna come and go. So the fact that he's not only back, but is gonna be a big part of Dawntrail, honestly, makes
Make him a scion, please. I could see it.
An honorary scion.
Honorary scion. I mean, that's what Estinian was for the longest time.
True. And now he's one of us.
Yeah, Estinian was made like an official scion right before they're like, well, sorry, we're disbanding.
Imagine like if he stayed up all night about that, just kind of like, was it because of me? Was it
me? Was it my fault?
Did they really just not?
Did I do that? Oh, man.
Geez. But you know what it is about him? Oh, what is it? 1 second. So you know how like there's all those crystals that the ancestor, let's just say the ancient
the 14.
ancestry. Right. Right.
I think you're about to talk about exactly what I was willing to mention.
Almarut, and how there's nothing allocating it and it matches Erenville's eyes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen the theory diving on it.
Please.
I think it would be very interesting because they've made it very clear that hey, don't forget about the convocation of the 14. They're still going to be important. So there's our tie back to the, all the old MSQ saga. And now we have this nice male Vieira who is suddenly getting more involved in the story. Yeah, and we have one member of the 14 that we honestly know nothing about, really.
And
So,
we can't understate that he is our first contact of the new world, right? That's
yeah.
really what he is. He was the first, if I'm not mistaken, person from Tudal that interacted with us. They sort of opened the door for this to happen. So I don't know. I almost kind of I already have an association with him like that. So I feel like I don't know. I would just love it. I would just love it because I think he's a cool character. It'd be nice if one of them was from another continent, right? As like sort of like a sleeper pick
Hmm.
because it's the last one to be revealed, right? All the other
I
13
think
are accounted
so.
for.
I believe so. In some way, shape, or form. There are some that we haven't heard about, or like really seen since A Realm Reborn. Um, so
And
I
I
don't
think with
really
some
know
of
what
it,
happened with that one.
and with some of it, we're kind of just relying on the devs outright telling us this person isn't dead.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff on that that still has to get fleshed out. But I don't know. I would just love anything that elevates Aaronvel. I'm gonna be about.
Yes. I'm very excited for that.
So gameplay wise, let me ask, what is because we've kept it pretty focused on story here for Dawntrail. So gameplay wise, what is it that you hope Dawntrail introduces, adds, includes? Like what is there any sort of gameplay expectation or wishes on your end?
Um, I don't want another Eureka Baja, if I'm
Okay.
being completely honest. I don't want another one. That might have the pitchforks coming my way eventually. I know a lot of people like that kind of content. Um, I would like to see I would like to see something that makes leveling a little smoother, maybe. That isn't one of these like hard grind areas. But I don't really know how I'd want that to come about. It's kind of difficult.
Okay.
Um, but as someone who does get on the hard grind of leveling every job, it does get tiring after a while. So I'm not really sure. And now that they're adding 2 new jobs, it's like got even more on the list now.
Mm-hmm. I think for
So
me, I just want the landscapes to be fun to explore. Cuz that's what I look forward to now cuz now like let's just say like the last 300 hours I've put into the game, I could warp anywhere I want. I can fly anywhere I want. I almost miss the old days where you had to get to that place on foot or on your mount, glued to the floor, and there was just a landscape to sort of take in. I hope
yeah,
that with this new expansion, there's a lot of that, for lack of a better term. Now that we're on this whole new continent, I almost want to feel mobily like it's a Realm Reborn again. Like I'm sort of
hmm,
glued to the ground and I have to work my way back up because this entire continent is so unfamiliar. As opposed to, look, whether it's Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, you're always going back to places you've been. There's always a reason to travel back there, and there are new places to explore too. But there's always a sense of familiarity, whether it's going back to Ul'dah or Gridania, whatever it's got to be.
yeah,
I want Tudal to just feel so unfamiliar, and like my Warrior of Light is humbled that he can't do those level 90 things he got so used to doing back on his home continent. Like, make me feel like I'm
right.
not home. Pull me out of my element. Like, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
So is this going to be the first expansion you're going into fresh,
Yes,
like on
actually.
content?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like you are going to get that experience, and I feel like it's going to be a lot of fun for you because it will be a lot of new exploring, and you're going to get onto a map for the first time in like what feels like forever because it's been years since Endwalker came out, and you're like, okay, I can get on a mount, but I still have to travel manually. have to use my Aether compass to find the Aether currents if I want to
Yep.
fly. Oh, there's one on that side of the cliff, but you're not going to get over there until like level 98 story content, so you're screwed. Enjoy being, on the ground for the majority of the X pack.
That's what I'm craving.
So I think that's what you're going to get, and it's going to be really nice going into an expansion for the first time, like on content, and experiencing that with people. And then what I'm looking forward to that I hope they bring back is the World Fates.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing it since Shadowbringers. I'm looking forward to the fate chaining of are we gonna get the boss to spawn? Are we gonna get the boss to spawn? The first one just showed up again. Now we have to repeat the cycle. I found that really fun, and it's really it's really telling when you play the game for, too many hours and you wait or wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning because the boss is back up after a 3-day cooldown, and you're like, it's fun.
I've had some.
It's gonna be awesome.
I was gonna say I've had some FF14 all-nighters just like that, where what you're waiting for to hits at like 1, 2 a.m. Can I ask how many hours you've put into the game?
A lot. It's hard to gauge because PlayStation doesn't. I don't know if PlayStation tracks that like Steam does. I've got 3,000 hours on my computer pulling up Steam. But I've also only been playing via PC since 2020.
Now,
then I took a long break from the game.
And I actually do want to ask you about that, because I know you're quasi on one of those right now, trying to keep Dawntrail fresh.
Yeah.
when you switched to PC, did you switch to mouse keyboard?
No.
No, so
still a controller player.
Yeah, me too. I gave it a shot. I don't know why. I just didn't. I think it's just because I've spent my whole life holding that damn thing that I just can't game without it.
I have a lot of respect for people who can play games like this on mouse and keyboard, because I'm like, I can't move and hit my nope, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then I have friends who play with both hands on the keyboard, and I'm like, you're a monster. But no, they're like really good gamers. I don't know. But I'm still a controller player. I love playing on controller. It does make some jobs harder, I will say. I think playing on controllers is why I don't play some jobs, because there's too many buttons. But yeah.
Well, I find
controller
the
all the way.
with organizing your UI with a controller is like, I feel like with a controller, I don't know about you, I'm always having to update it just based on how the job changes, how my playstyle changes. So
I've changed mine a lot. I have a hotbar for like normal casual content, and I have my hotbar for rating.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot to manage.
It is, but it almost becomes fun. Like, I swear, I spent 30 minutes reorganizing my entire HUD. I always say HUD, but I know like it's okay to say that. Anyway, I spent like 30 minutes doing it and had a genuine like good time.
Yeah. And that's usually my struggle when new jobs come out. So like Viper and Pictomancer are gonna come out, and I assume they're starting at level 80. Because that's kind of the usual thing, is they'll start 10 levels under where the max was. And that's really overwhelming for me. Because you're at level 80, and here's all of these buttons and all these things, and the way that Final Fantasy sets it up on your hotbar at the beginning makes absolutely no sense. So what I like to do, and what I've done every expansion with new jobs, is I actually go into Palace of the Dead. I start a brand new Palace of the Dead file, I go in at level 1, and I solo things, and I see when I would learn jobs, or when I would learn actions, like if I had started the class from level 1, which I know you can do if you just go into your like actions and stuff and like look at, but I'd rather learn it on the fly. So like I go through, now I'm level 2, I get this new skill. What does it do? How does it work in the chain of the combo? And that's how I like to learn new jobs, and it feels less overwhelming because suddenly I'm not having a bunch of random actions and buttons thrown at me, and I don't have to look around for where the combos are uh and all that. But yeah.
Yeah, you see, that's something that I feel like will be new to me too. Um, is because I've obviously picked up different classes when I've moved on to different expansions, but picking up one that is, how do I put it? Like is launching, like put it this way, when I first picked up Gunbreaker, I could go on YouTube and there were hundreds of hours of people telling me how to play it,
Got it.
best way to play it, best way to set up your interface. So like I was able to go into that and there was just like a wealth of knowledge there to help me. Now when I start Viper, nothing. Literally nothing. Got to go in blind. And part of that excites me, but I wonder if that will end up overwhelming me and I'm just going to stick to the DPS ones I already have at level 90. I'll stick to Reaper. I'll stick to Samurai. But I don't know. I'm excited to see how that plays out. You said you started in Heavensward. So was Stormblood the
Yeah.
first one that you kind of went into blind or went into at launch?
Probably. I think when Heaven's Ward actually released, I was still in the middle of a Realm Reborn story. So I didn't get to go through the expansion on content. I was doing Heaven's Ward patches on content. Um, but yeah, when the MSQ dropped, I was definitely behind still. I did catch up by the end of 3.0. And then had to wait patch to patch to patch.
Yeah, I got a little bit of that in Endwalker. Like by the time I
Yeah.
finished Endwalker, the last couple patches were still being rolled out. So I did get a little bit of that feeling of waiting for patch, which wasn't so
Yeah,
bad.
it's not too bad. It can become a slog after a while if you're like, okay, like I need something new to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to ask. So obviously FF14 has no shortage, and we kind of went over this earlier in the episode, of content outside the main game, even outside the combat, right? Whether it's the island sanctuary, apartments, houses, mini game hub A, mini game hub B, free companies, taverns, nightclub, we can go on and on, right? Where does
Right.
it go from here? Okay, new saga, new continent. What kind of like new ways to enjoy this world can even be added at this point? Is there anything that you can fathom, or do you think it's more about just, all right, you've established all these ways to play, now kind of narrow your focus and continue to improve upon those? Or like, I don't know. Does anything come to mind?
I mean, there's the meme that everyone's been asking for Blitzball since the dawn of time, but I don't know if that'll ever actually happen. Um, Endwalker introduced the new thing of like having people accompany you during story quests, and then there were places
Yeah,
you could stop and talk for dialogue
I
and
like
lore,
that.
and that was really nice, and that added a new kind of gameplay mechanic to it. Um, I don't want to see a like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth where it's minigame after minigame after minigame thrown at you. But I would like to see an incorporation of some new like minigame mechanics. So like Stormblood, when you had those instances where you were like looking through binoculars to try and find someone or shooting darts at like a thing. Like that was a fun aspect, and I would like to see something like that come back to kind of enhance like some side quests and stuff. Um but in terms of like adding new things, like I wouldn't even know what they could add at this point. Like we have 8-man content, 24-man content,
Mm-hmm.
Savage, Ultimates, like the Island Sanctuary was like a new thing they added, and I would have never expected a farming sim in my online MMORPG. But it was really fun and I really like it, and I I think I would like to see more casual content added. I feel like they focus a lot on the hardcore rating and something for the hardcore players. I would love more casual content for people like me who like doing both. And sometimes when you don't want to do the hardcore stuff, you just want to go hang out on your island for a little bit, you know? Um, something like that, maybe.
Well, what what comes to mind for me in hearing you say that, and it's something I've wanted from this game for a while, but I want more ways to interact with the Scions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of what if I could just add something, doesn't have to be part of main story quest, right? Doesn't have to be part of main story quest, but maybe you could group up 2 Scions and go play a mini game with them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull things out of my head.
Something like, you know how you have like custom deliveries and you get to do like a set number per week and you improve your like relationships with them and there's like a side like little side story tied to it. Something like that with the Scions would be cool, where like there is like a relationship type meter that you can like build your bond with these people even more and have little side stories and like side quest explorations with them. That would be really cool.
And there is a little bit of that, right? Like I believe it was Shadowbringers. I can't remember the exact scenario, but you're staying at like an inn, and depending on who you've bonded with depends on who knocks on your door.
Oh, so it was Endwalker, because it happens in Charlie, and someone knocks on the door and you get to pick from the list.
You pick
who you
from
want.
the list. Oh,
you
okay.
pick, it gives you a list, and you're like, it's who you're thinking about at that moment, and then that's the person behind the door.
Right.
Yeah, I went back and watched all of those.
Me too. How could you not? How could you not?
I didn't like having to pick one, so I just went to the Unending Journey journal and watched them all. So yeah, that one was. I would like to see more things like that.
Yes, just again, ways to interact with the Scions that aren't just glued to the main story or grouping them in your party for a dungeon. Like really let me spend some time with them, which is kind of what this whole arc seems to be about, right? Is like they're all going to get to spend time together, which when like the story does like implies at certain times where it's like they don't really get to. Like in between expansions, it's not like they're all hanging out. They all kind of go do their own thing.
Everyone goes and does their own thing, and then it's like, oh, hey, there you are. Like, hey, we've made progress on this thing. Because I don't know how they stick to all of this has happened within the span of a year. How?
What a year. What a year.
What a year.
What a year.
From starting out as a baby adventurer to saving the world from a like ending apocalypse.
Like two apocalypses. Is it apocalypse?
Yeah.
Or apocalypse? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah,
I was like, okay.
Yeah,
in a year.
Put it this way, if you haven't added any sort of gray hair to your Warrior of Light, you're not telling the truth. If it's a year like that, they've got a little Alphino and Alice on them now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. But like, that is crazy. It's a bit of a tough sell for me. Bit of a tough. You could maybe get me Realm Reborn through Stormblood. You could maybe get me on that.
That would be more acceptable. And then Shadowbringers and Endwalkers like year 2.
Year 2. I could buy into that. Tough sell though.
I don't know. It's really hard when you have things like a whole arc with Azhdaya, where it's like these alchemists need to work and figure out a way to get into the void. You're telling me like what, a week passed and we got it?
They got the funding, Comey. Like they got the funding. That's it. That's all they ever needed.
It's just like, okay, sure. This all happened in a year. Uh-huh. Yep.
All these strides from does that you know what I absolutely
the advances
love?
On what?
The fact that like the failed version of this game is such a crucial part of the lore. That is just the most Square Enix thing ever.
Oh, like the 1.0 story?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've
Is that included in the year? Is that included in the year too?
Oh, I don't know. No, I think it's just a Realm Reborn on.
Okay. Easier.
But I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it was just pretty sure it's just a Realm Reborn to Endwalker. Happens in like a year, according to Yoshi P. No one agrees with that though.
I can't fathom it. In my head, it's been like 5 years.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is, and Yoshi P himself has said like, it is your journey you take it and you adapt it however you want to. If
Mhm.
you want to say more time has passed, sure, fine, more time has passed. They kind of gave us like their own general thing, but they really want it to be your experience and how you interpret things, and I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I
I
just really wanted Xenos to stop calling me his friend. Oh.
I loved the whole Xenos thing. I do, when you wake up after passing out and he's just got you at the dinner table. I lost it.
That
I
was, I mean, that
lost
whole
it.
section in Garlemald was pretty good, but like, no, I'm not your friend. Stop calling me your friend.
Oh. And you said you have a few MSQs to wrap up, right?
Hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I have this. I have, I think I stopped right after Zeromus. I think I stopped right. I unlocked the trial for myself, did the trial, and was like, okay, I have other things I still need to unlock because I took a long break from the game. Um, and I was like, let me go unlock the other things. We'll come back to it, and then we never went back to it. So I definitely need to do that before next Friday.
Well, let me ask you. So this break from
Yeah.
FF14, when did it start? How long has it gone on? And what brought it on? And
Um,
I imagine you've
it
been playing the
was,
game a very long time. You brought up earlier
yeah,
you've been on since Heavensward, so
been on for 10 years now, man. um, it I think so. I really like raiding. I like endgame raiding. But there came a point where it was the only thing I was doing. When I would log on, I had my static group, we raided at specific days on, specific times, and it got to the point where as much as I love raiding, I was getting some serious burnout from it, and it made me not want to play the game because the only time I was playing it, I was in endgame content. And when the Omega Protocol came out, um, we had just gone through the second Savage tier, so P5 to P8, and that was really draining on me and my static as a whole. We, got really tired and bored of it. So when the Ultimate came out, I was like, I'm gonna take a step back. Y'all have fun with the Ultimate. Find someone else to fill my spot. For the time being, I'll see you for the final Savage tier. Um, and that let me kind of do a few other things in 14. But I found myself playing the game less and less. I was streaming it less. I was streaming more variety. I was playing things in my backlog. Um, and my static got progressively more burnt out doing an ultimate fight than the Savage tier fight. Um, and when the Savage came out, I was like, hey, I know y'all are still in Ultimate, and this was a while later, right? Because
Mhm.
it's a couple patches between Savage tiers, and they were still in the Ultimate fight. They didn't want to go back to Savage yet, so I did it on my own with a couple other friends, and then I realized like, oh, now I'm just back in the Savage rating again, and that I think fully increased the burnout to the point where I was like, I gotta step away from rating. I just needed a break from the game. Um, and I don't think I touched it from 6.3 onward for a while. Yeah. And I've just started getting back into it recently. Been doing mount farms on the weekends with my free company, and that's been really fun. Just kind of I've been working on my triple triad card collection. So like I'm trying to do
There you
more
go.
casual things to bring my love for the game back. And one of the reasons why I'm trying to be so in the dark about Dawntrail is I want it to be a brand new experience with no expectations whatsoever.
And I can respect that, especially if someone's been in the game as long as you have. And I mean, what better time to do it, right? The whole point of this arc is to feel fresh, feel new
Right.
again, right? So I
Exactly.
feel like you're psychically connected and picking up what they're
Yeah.
putting down. So
And like I've been enjoying logging into the game again, which I think is what I was missing before. So, will I try Savage in Dawntrail? I don't know yet, but I'm not going to put my cards on it just yet.
Yeah, ease
I'm
back into it. Ease back into
yeah.
it because again, there's so much in the game to love. Like I've gone down the triple triad rabbit hole, and geez, like I want physical copies of these things. That and Queen's Blood.
Queen's Blood was so much fun, right?
Queen's Blood is insane. Queen's Blood. I wish I could be a professional Queen's Blood player. I wish I could.
I
I'd give
enjoyed
it
it.
all up tomorrow. I'd
So
give it
yeah,
all
I'm
up.
looking at my list. Yeah, I'm missing 16 triple triad cards in the game. Eight
You're
of them are the like EX cards, like the ones you get from tournaments and stuff.
wow. And you're
Yeah,
only
so
missing
I have
16?
16 total. I have 389 out of 405 cards.
Wow.
It's been fun.
Oh, I can't even. I think I'm still at like 180, something like that. Oh
It's
my
been fun to
goodness.
grind them all out. Yeah.
Good for you. Are you going to be like pissed off when you make it to Toral and there's like 90 new cards?
No.
No.
I'm gonna
Okay.
be so excited to collect all the new
It's not about
cards.
completing. It's not about completing.
Well, it's about completing eventually. I'm a major completionist. Like, I mean, some of my like recent content for streaming is the platinum series. It's all about getting platinum trophies and getting all the achievements. So I definitely want all the triple triad cards one day. But when they add more in, it's just like, okay, I'm a hard focus on those. So at least I have like, let me get the 7.0 cards out of the way. Then I have all the 7.0 cards.
Mm. Go one expansion at a time. I respect
Yeah.
that. I respect
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Just like one patch at a time, see what I'm still missing. How do I get it?
See, you know what? We were talking about things they can add to the game in this new era. Add Queen's
Hmm
Blood. Give me Queen's Blood.
add a second type of card game, yeah.
Yeah, make that there. Make that Todal's triple triad, right?
Mhm.
Which I wonder is that, and maybe they've talked about this. I don't know. Because like you, I'm not trying to keep up with every little thing they drop. I'm trying to go in. Like I said, I'm a sucker for the trailers, but I am trying to go in as blind as I can allow myself, for lack of a better
Mhm.
term. Um, how far does Tadal? How far is that gonna go? Are there gonna be residencies? Is there gonna be like a gold saucer version, like a Tadal gold saucer version? Like, is it really gonna turn into as big and as fleshed out an area as Eorzea? Do you think they take it that far?
Hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're gonna do that or if they're gonna go the like Kugane author Doma route where it's
Right.
kind of just like another continent, you know?
Yeah. That's one of my biggest curiosities. It's not a make or break for me, but I do wonder like how okay, so we're in this new continent, new world. How far are you going to take that, you know?
Yeah. Cause that's kind of always how I pictured um Favner also
Mhm.
as being like another huge separate section and then it wasn't that big. It was kind of just another couple maps. um but yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see where they go with it. How far they take it, how much they develop it, what's attached to it in the future. Um Curious to see the cultural aspects they integrate into it. Got a lot of like ancient Mesoamerica
All about
nods
it.
here.
All about it.
Uh yeah.
Get,
So
give me as
eh,
much Aztec and Mayan references as you can. I'm here for it personally.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the first trailer, the one that I have seen, it was like, oh, so it's El Dorado.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get the
It's
same
El
vibe.
Dorado, yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
get the same vibe. I picked up the same thing. And I'm not going to say anything more than that. Um so we're coming up on an hour and a half here. Was there anything Dawntrail or FF14 related you wanted to discuss today that we haven't?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we've covered quite a
With
lot
with
today.
with trying to stay as like general like no information, there's not a lot would think about discussing that wouldn't be too spoilery. Other than, I don't know. I hope the dungeons are fun.
You know, dungeons are probably my least favorite,
Oh,
but
really?
but I've started to enjoy them with the party. That's
Yeah.
changing
I
it for me.
I think trusts really kind of amplify dungeons because you get different reactions based on who you take in.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it's interesting to see the character dialogue when you pull up to a boss and then like Ishtola says like, "Oh, like what is like," has like a comment about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um I love that.
Me too. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of that in Dawntrail. Dialed up to a 10. Because a lot of that they've retroactively added too, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been slowly backtracking. They added it with a Rumbleborn and then Heaven's Ward, and um I think they recently added in most of the Stormblood dungeons. So I
Mm-hmm.
think everything has now been backloaded so that you can do the game completely solo, which is awesome. Um I would love to see another 8-man trial with the party. That's what another thing that I guess I really want is I get to my first 8-man trial. I want to be able to do it on my own with all the scions filling in the other roles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm kind of sad we didn't get to do that for Zodiark, but
Ooh. I would have been about that.
yeah,
Oh, now that
we
you
got to
bring
do
that
it for
up.
one. We got to do it for one and not the other, you know. And
Yeah. You know,
that
I
was a little
never thought of it
disappointing.
like that. But you're so right.
Yeah, and like Katesis was really, I mean, heartbreaking aside, but like Katesis was cool because you got to do it with Emmett and Hythlodaeus
Mm-hmm.
and Vanon. That was so hype for me just to be able to bring other characters into it, you know? Um and I haven't gone back and done the old ones.
Mm-hmm.
But like the fact that you can do dungeons with like Amaric and
Yes.
Harshaphon and like other characters like from the story is really cool. So I'm hoping that with Dawntrail, either characters that we meet along the way or some of the characters we have met can come into the party so that it could be either the Scions or these other characters. And then Trust just stays the Scions because I don't need to level more Trusts.
No. I'm with you there. I guess ultimately what I want from Dawntrail is just scions. I just want more
Just yeah,
scions.
just
That's really it.
relationship building and interaction. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there should be plenty of that to chew on when the time comes 1 week
Yeah.
from today. But with that said, at 90 minutes, let's wrap it up here. But before we do,
Sure.
again, thank you for coming on and thank you
That
for
was the
initiating this too.
fastest 90 minutes of my life.
They always fly by. They always fly by. Like I swear. I looked when it was like an hour 20. I was like, that felt like 45 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
that was not an hour 20. But thanks for
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll have to get you on a Kingdom Hearts episode sometime.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
Hands down.
Exactly. Yeah, cuz I got to pick your brain on that too. It's always fun to find out how people got into that particular series because it's such a strange animal of an existence. But with that said, before we wrap up today, wanted to let everyone know a little bit about what you do, where they could find you. I've got a bunch of your links in the episode description if anybody's looking, but the floor is yours before we wrap up today.
Okay. I am a variety streamer on Twitch. You can find me at Paupu Komi, Paupu like the Paupu fruit from Kingdom Hearts. I do a lot of story content. I love RPGs. And then I recently started the Platinum series, which is where I play games and get all the achievements in them. We're currently doing Dragon Quest XI, which is one of my favorite games. So that one's been really fun. And then you can find me with the same name on Twitter and YouTube. Those are my big socials. And yeah.
Yeah, and if you need to look any further, like I said, I've got all those links in the episode description. Palpu Komi, thank you so much for coming on. This was great. I look forward to talking to you about FF14 post this expansion. We're curious to get your thoughts on it. And maybe we can bully BioRoxas into maybe joining us. He did He did jump in the chat at some point. Hello.
Get Bio in here to talk about endgame rating and
Oh yeah. Use terminology I don't understand, which is funny because when you messaged me earlier that you hadn't been keeping up with PLL, I had to Google what that meant. I was like, is this some kind of raid term that I don't know? 1,000 hours into the game, I still don't know what I'm doing. And then
the producer live letters.
Producer live letter. I was like, oh, okay. For a minute there, I had the noob moment of like, do I really not know what this is? Because you dropped it so casually on me.
My bad.
Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you tuned in live or you watched this back. Appreciate it. We'll be live again on Sunday, and then Dawntrail will launch and we'll be live for that too. Komi, thank you again for doing this. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next episode.